Let's bring in Missouri Republican Senator Josh Hawley. He's a member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee. We're glad to have him join us now. Senator, thank you for being with us on this Sunday morning. You just heard that report from Griff Jenkins. You add to that the reports we learned this week of something like 85,000 children have been lost to the system, illegal immigrant children, lost to the system here in the United States. Don't know where they are. What is your reaction?
Well, listen, it's a travesty, and the Biden administration is absolutely morally responsible for what is happening to these kids. 85,000 kids who they've completely lost track of. Now, the thing is, we know, though, what they're doing, these 85,000 kids. They have been sold into modern-day slavery. They are in slaughterhouses. They are in factories. They are working overnight. They are in roofing companies. They're not getting paid. These global multinational corporations are taking advantage of them. And by the way, displacing American workers at the same time. And all I can figure is the Biden administration doesn't care because they are such open border fanatics. If thousands of kids have to get lost and sold into indentured servitude to get their policies to work, to have that border open, then they're all for it.
Yeah. We should have seen that in COVID, by the way. They didn't care what happened to our kids there either. They just wanted their vaccinations, their policies, and they wanted to shut down schools to make the point. And they didn't care about the children there and many of the vaccine injuries that happened to children as a result of it. Senator, I want to also ask you about this Dobbs decision and the leak. It's very clear that, Supreme Court Justice Alito is signaling that he kind of knows, he thinks he knows who did it. Are we ever, as the American people, going to know? And shouldn't we?
Absolutely we should know. I mean, the American people have a right to know. And for the justice to say that he thinks he knows who did it is extraordinary. But I have to say, I don't find that unbelievable at all. It's a small place. I mean, listen, I worked at that court. There's only 36 clerks at that court. I mean, it's not like it's a massive place to work. I mean, if they wanted to find the leaker, here's the bottom line. If they wanted to find the leaker, they could find the leaker. And the truth is, I don't think they really wanted to. And I think that's what Justice Alito is really getting at there. He's saying, listen, I think I know who it is. It's not complicated. This is a travesty, and it's going to happen again. I mean, mark my words, if you can do this one time, and you can bring all this pressure to bear, you still have people marching around Amy Coney Barrett's home. If you can do that with one leak, they will absolutely do it again.
It's staggering. We just talked about two big topics, but there are sometimes topics that rise above that, that are even bigger, that inform how we get into these crises. One of those is, how do you strengthen and preserve manhood, masculinity, families in this country? You spoke yesterday at a Stronger Men's Conference in Missouri and talked about manhood in America today. Here's a portion of what you said.
No matter how you feel, no matter how the last few months have gone for you or the last few years, your life is a life of influence. Your life is a life of significance, and God wants to use you to do something that He won't use anybody else for. He has something for you that He doesn't have with anybody else. He has called you to a specific task and purpose in this day and in this hour, and the world needs it because He's chosen you to do it.
You gave, from what I understand, about a 45-minute speech about men and their responsibility in America. Talk to me about why this is a topic, something you're so passionate about.
If you just look at the statistics, just look at the number of men in America who say they're suffering from depression, all-time highs. Look at the number of men in America who are suffering from drug abuse and alcohol abuse, all-time highs. Look at the number of men in America committing suicide, all-time highs. There is no doubt that we have a crisis of purpose for men, especially young men in this country, and we just need to call these men to something higher. Listen, yesterday I just talked about what the Bible has to say about why men are important. God has a purpose for men and women in this world. And by the way, those are two separate things. There are men and there are women, and they're different. And God has a purpose for each one of us, and each one of us as a man and as a woman. And we just talked about this at this conference. 10,000 men from all over the country gathered to worship God, to hear about how they can be better fathers, better husbands, how they can go out and lead in their communities. I mean, it was just awesome to be part of. Men want that purpose, and the country needs it. The country needs the men of this nation to step up, and that's really what we talked about.
Well, I agree with that sentiment very much, Senator, and I think it's it's not, I don't know if it's fair to call it an undercurrent anymore, because I think it's become obvious, and you can find many people who address this subject, but it is an undercurrent to the problems we have today, that men have lost a sense of purpose and identity, and in fact had those robbed of them. And I think you can trace that back to a lot of our current problems.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you just look at, the fatherlessness crisis that we have in this country. Look at poverty. Look at childhood poverty in this country. What's it caused by? Overwhelmingly, it is caused by fathers who are absent in their homes. And that's one of the messages to young men and all men out there. Listen, if you have a family, if you have kids, provide for your kids. If you have a wife, contribute to your wife. I mean, we could solve the childhood poverty problem in America, or come pretty darn close, if we would have fathers who would stay with their families, who would work a job, provide for their families. But guys, listen, we also need to get policies that reward work and policies that create good paying jobs for people to get a good job in this country, to be able to support a family on a good job. That's the Washington piece of it. Washington has failed the men of this country. Washington has sent good paying jobs overseas. Washington has hollowed out our industry in this country, sent it to China. So there's a Washington connection here too. We need to hear that as well. And Republicans need to step up and offer it.
But it comes down to an individual father taking responsibility for his family and his child, whether they're out of wedlock or not. And it's really shocking that right now, at this very moment, we have the first son, Hunter Biden, shirking his responsibilities as a father to little Navy Biden. And we have grandparents in the White House who haven't stepped up, at least to step in for him at that. So very, very sad that we couldn't get this example at the very top.
Well, and you make a great point about the need for dads everywhere, whether it's the first son, I guess, as his title may be, to any other son, any other man in America. If you've got kids, you need to provide for them. If you're going to have a family, take care of them. And again, just think how this country could be transformed if every man in this country would say, I'm going to take responsibility for my children. I'm going to take responsibility for my family. I'm going to provide. I'm going to protect them. But the crime, the drug problem in this country, the childhood poverty in this country, we could transform it. And having men stand up and be responsible really is the key.
Well, I love your message that central to that transformation is belief in a higher purpose, that God has a plan and laws for each of us to attempt to follow while we're on this earth. Senator Hawley, thank you. Great speech. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.